Hi everyone and welcome to the third project in which we're going to be developing a fitness app which shows us some body statistics. It will help tell us whether our weight is healthy, and it will also allow us to see how many calories we should be consuming in order to meet certain weight goals. Now, some of us may want to maintain our weight, some of us may want to lose weight, and some of us may want to put weight on. And this app will help us determine how many calories we should be consuming based on our own information. So Fitness Fan Limited have asked us to create a fitness app to help their customers. The application should allow a user to observe their BMI, which is known as the body mass index, and the respective rating. More on this shortly. They should be able to observe their BMR, which stands for their basal metabolic rate. They should be able to observe a daily calorie consumption expectation based on their BMR. And finally, they should be able to observe a daily calorie consumption expectation based on target weight goal. Now, there are likely to be a few things in this list of requirements that are confusing. But I've broken the application down into smaller tasks, and I'm going to walk you through where I've got the information in order to tackle this problem. Now, an interesting fact about myself that not many people know is that I'm actually a qualified personal trainer. I'm very much into my fitness, and I love helping others achieve their goals. So this is something I use all the time in order to help customers work out whereabouts they should be sitting in terms of calorie consumption. Now, the first thing we're asked to do is create a function that can calculate a person's BMI, and the BMI formula is as follows. It's weight in kilograms divided by the height squared, where height is in meters. So if we pop across to the NHS website, you can see here that we're told that the body mass index is a measure that uses your height and weight to work out if your weight is healthy. And it's calculated by dividing an adult's weight in kilograms by their height in meters squared. The next thing we're asked to do is create a function that can output a person's BMI rating, and on the same NHS website, you can see that we have the BMI ranges. So if a BMI is below 18.5, the person would be classified as underweight. If they're between 18.5 and 24.9, they're considered healthy. Between 25 and 29.9, the person would be considered as overweight. And if you're above 30, you'd be considered in the obese range. So the app needs to be able to tell the user what rating they are classified as. We're then asked to create a function that can calculate a person's BMR, where BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. And in order to determine this, we're going to be using what is known as the Mifflin-Centaur equation. And I have picked this information up from the omnicalculator.com website, as you can see here. So what the BMR will actually provide is an estimate of the amount of calories that a person will burn whilst at rest. In other words, if you were not to do anything during the day, this is the amount of calories that your body will burn from all the chemical reactions that occur in everyone's body to maintain a living state. So with this information, based on our activity levels, we'll be able to estimate how many calories each of us consume on a daily basis. Now, the next function we're asked to create is using the Harris-Benedict equation, which is used to determine an individual's total daily energy expenditure. And the Harris-Benedict equation is a formula that uses the BMR, which is calculated in the prior function, and then applies an activity factor to determine the total daily energy expenditure. So if a person doesn't do any exercise, we need to multiply their BMR by 1.2 to give us an estimate of the amount of calories they'll burn in a day. If a user considers themselves as lightly active, in other words they do sports or exercise 1 to 3 days per week, we need to multiply their BMR by 1.375. If they're considered moderately active, i.e. exercise 3 to 5 days a week, we need to multiply their BMR by 1.55 to give us the calories that they would burn on a daily basis. Very active people will need to multiply by 1.725, and if someone is extra active, i.e. they have a physical job and they do very hard exercise 6 to 7 times a week, maybe twice a day, we need to multiply their BMR by 1.9. Now this will give us the amount of calories that a person will burn having considered their daily lives, i.e. their activity levels. And with this information, we can do one important thing. Depending on whether the user wants to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain weight, we have to either be below this number, above this number, or consume the same amount as this number in order to achieve the respective goal. Now the next thing we're asked to do is, depending on what the target weight that the user would like to achieve is, and the time frame they would like to achieve their goal in, we need to determine the amount of daily calories that they should consume. And this is very simple. People complicate the art of losing or gaining weight. Now if a person wants to lose weight, they should be in and maintain what is known as a calorie deficit. And a calorie deficit can be achieved in one of two ways. They can either eat fewer calories than what they burn, and the above functions provide us with the amount of calories that an individual is expected to burn on a daily basis, so they'd need to consume less than this number. Or another way of looking at it is that a person should burn more calories than what they eat, i.e. they should increase their activity levels in order to burn more calories. Now on average, it takes about 3,500 calories worth of energy in order to burn 1 pound of fat. In other words, in order to lose 1 pound of fat, an individual would need to create a deficit of 3,500 calories. So let's break this down even further. If we want a client to lose 1 pound of fat in a week, they should be having a calorie deficit of around 500 calories a day. In other words, 3,500 divide by 7. And if we achieve this calorie deficit of 500, then the individual should be on a path to losing that 1 pound of fat in a week. Now we can take the same assumption the other way. If an individual wants to put on weight, then they should be in what is known as a calorie surplus, i.e. above the expected daily calories that they burn on a day in order to put weight on. So we'll need to think how we can construct this program in order to give the users this type of insight. The last two things we're asked to do is firstly create a function to see if the user wants to use the app again, and this is something that we're familiar with. And finally, we need to generate a body statistics report for individuals who use the app. So with all of the functions that we create above, we're going to need to construct a program that asks for input at specific times, calls functions at specific times, and then displays information on the screen to help users understand what they need to consume in order to achieve their target weight goal. So this application will not only test what you've learned in Python so far and reinforce that learning, but it's also going to provide a very useful application that you can use in your own time in order to help you achieve your body weight goals. Good luck in developing this program, and in the next video, I'll show you the way I went about creating this application step by step.